during that time to recruit students from the various university for the MSc Master of Science program from the US. So it's so nice to be here again. I would like to share with you this topic called development of a smart and sustainable city for the tropics. It seems a very, very big topic to discuss. So therefore it is impossible for me to talk about everything about smart and sustainable city, but I will focus primarily on one aspect on the sustainable city, which is my key research focus. But before that, I will give a very quick introduction concerning this smart and sustainable city for the tropics, because this is actually an initiative taken by the Singapore government with the aim to develop Singapore into a smart and sustainable city. So I'll quickly give an introduction of that, and then after that I'll focus on a small portion of that called Cooler and Calmer Singapore, which I've been very involved in this part of the research. Right? So I hope my talk is useful for you, though I have to say that I understand that the audience here comes from very diverse background, engineering, architecture, and so on. I have to say that my talk perhaps is focused primarily more on the architectural and the urban design aspect. Right, next. Yeah, so very quickly talk about this program set up by the Singapore government. It was actually initiated by our Prime Minister office in 2015. So you can see that it's a very new program, started only about 2 years ago, slightly more than 2 years ago, right? And then under this program, we have something called Research, Innovation and Enterprise, RIE 2020. Okay? It was established with a total budget of about 19 billion, right? So you can see it's a big budget set up by the government for Singapore science and technology research over the next 5 years. One very important area, which is in a way related to our topic, related to our conference, is on required urban solutions and sustainability, in short USS, with a budget of about 900 million. Right? One very important aspect that the government is trying to achieve, and this is also what we have been researching on now, is a very, very challenging target set up by the government for us to achieve that, is to cut down the ambient temperature by 4 degrees Celsius in the residential estates under this required Cooler and Calmer Singapore program. Right? So for my talk, I will focus primarily on how we try to achieve this reduction of 4 degrees. It's not easy target, but we are trying to do something like that. So my focus of the talk will be primarily on that. Next. So just a very quick sharing. Right? It's overall view of the so-called smart city that the government is trying to do, and you can see it really covers many different areas. Some of it I will share more information, like 3D mapping. Right? I will share more on this one. Basically what it means is that Singapore is now, in fact, is almost done developing a 3D model for the entire Singapore. Now, when I say 3D model, means every individual building is modeled under this 3D mapping, or we call it virtual Singapore mapping. And then not only on the building, on the external appearance of the building, but for every individual building, we also have, some of you may be familiar, called building information module that is embedded in each building. So it's a very ambitious program. And then we have other things which is related to urban and sustainable solution I'll talk about. The other one is called Smart City. You can see the Jurong Lake District Smart City. So the government set up a special area and want to develop that into a smart city. So a lot of researchers from various universities working together with the industry to look at how they can be done. There are many other things like water quality, transportation, protection of the sea and so on. Those I will not cover that in the talk here. So this just to give you an overview of what this smart city is about, what this program is about. Okay, next. Yes, you can see this is just a snapshot of this so-called virtual Singapore, creation of a 3D model for Singapore. Right, for those who have been to Singapore, you may be very familiar. You can see the 3D model of the Marina Bay Sands, our famous building with the casino there, and then the Marina Bay area with the new developments and so on. You can see Garden by the Bay. So this whole 3D model is now under development, and we are almost reaching the completion of this 3D model now. It's not an easy task. We have spent almost 3 years now developing that, and we had to work with the industry, with some company to do this model. We'll talk about the usage later. Right? So this is on the virtual. Yes, now I want to focus on this special program that I've been quite involved in it. It's called the Cooler and Calmer Singapore. Right? Like I mentioned earlier, the government has this ambition of reducing the temperature by 4 degrees Celsius. Okay, and this is a research that I've been working on for almost 15 years now. We call it the Urban Heat Island study. Right? What is actually Urban Heat Island? Urban Heat Island simply means that in the city center, the temperature can exceed much higher in terms of degrees Celsius as compared to the rural area. Right? For Singapore, you can see a very easy way to look at the hotspots is by using satellite image. So this is using a satellite image of Singapore, and then we use a special software to map out the hotspots in Singapore. So even though Singapore has been considered as a garden city, but we are actually not spared from having this problem of urban heat island. For those who are very familiar with Singapore, you can see that our west part of Singapore is very, very hot. This is primarily the industrial area, Jurong industrial area. Those areas is very, very hot. And then you can see our CBD area, our central business district area, on the southern part of Singapore is also very hot. And then of course you can see the airport, the Changi airport is very, very hot. So that gives us a very quick snapshot of the hotspots we have in Singapore. Alright, so this is for example, and you can see that in our central catchment area there, which is our reservoir, it is much cooler. That's why it is dark blue in color as compared to the red in color. Next. We also did a detailed measurement. We set up sensors in different parts of Singapore, and then we monitor that over a long period of time. And you can see that the temperature mapping for the entire Singapore is actually very similar to the one that we get from the satellite image. Right? The pink color, the red color shows the higher temperature, which again occur primarily on the southern part of Singapore. On the northern part, they tend to be relatively cooler because there are more vegetation on the northern part of Singapore. Some area there are still a lot of forest. There you'll be quite surprised. Why Singapore we still have some forest. Besides the central catchment area, which is primarily for our reservoir and so on, some of the forests are actually reserved for the army. The army use the forest to do their training in the jungle warfare. So that's why that area turned out to be cooler as compared to the southern part. Next. Yep, so you can see, even though Singapore has a lot of greenery, they try to do a lot of planting of trees and so on, but you can see that in the central business district, the temperature easily can be 5 degrees higher than that in the rural area. Right? You can see the one with the lowest temperature is called Lim Chu Kang, and that's the area with a lot of forest because of for the army training and so on. Right? 4.5 to 5 degrees Celsius. And this result was obtained in 2008. 5 years later, another colleague of mine did the same study and the temperature difference has gone up to 7 degrees Celsius. 7 degrees Celsius. All right, so it shows that we are fighting a losing battle. It's not a simple solution for this, because as you urbanize, as you have more buildings, as you have more transportation, cars and so on, the temperature will go up. So what can we do to reduce that temperature? And that's precisely what the Cooler Coming Singapore program is about. Next. Alright, so we started by experimenting NUS. NUS being a university campus. We want to start something small. Right? So we deploy sensor to different parts of NUS, and then we make use of GIS. I think now you should be quite familiar with what is GIS, Geographical Information System. We build a 3D model of NUS, and then we map out the temperature. Alright, you can see it's a very nice exercise because by monitoring the temperature over a long period of time, we can understand where are the hot spots during the daytime and where are the hot spots during the nighttime. Now, it is interesting to note that when we talk about hot spots, when we talk about urban heat island, it is a very, very dynamic behavior in the sense that during the daytime, the hot spots can be different from during the nighttime. Okay, and this is very important. We call it the daytime urban heat island and nighttime urban heat island. Now you may ask why there are differences. Why in the daytime the hot spot appear in this area, but at the nighttime the hot spots appear in another area? It's very simple. In the daytime, it's those areas with no shade, very open, that are exposed to a lot of solar radiation. Those are the hot spots. But in the nighttime, interestingly, a lot of the area with a lot of buildings which are closely clustered together, these are the areas which are getting hotter. Why that is the case? Because during the daytime, this high-rise building will absorb a lot of heat, and at nighttime they start to radiate into the environment. So that is called the nighttime urban heat island. So this kind of a technology or this kind of a research allow us to understand where are the hotspots during the daytime and during the nighttime, and we can then design the appropriate solutions to reduce the temperature. Okay, thanks. Yeah, you can see from here, by using the geographical information system, we have a very good understanding of where are the hotspots during the daytime, where are the hotspots during the nighttime, and so on. So this is the daytime mapping. You can cut any section and you can understand the temperature profile. Next. Yeah, this is for nighttime. So you can see the hotspot changes over at different locations and so on. Thanks. Alright, so the next thing we want to ask ourselves is that after we did the study in NUS, understanding the temperature mapping and so on, though it is a very good method, but the problem is we need a lot of data, right? We need to gather a lot of data from sensors. We need to set up temperature sensor and so on throughout the entire NUS campus so that we can understand where are the hotspots and so on. So people ask us, what about new development? If now I want to develop a new area and I want to understand my new development, is it good or bad? Where are the hotspots in my new development? Now we cannot use this method, right? Because new development means no buildings there yet, no development yet. So we start to think about, can we develop software? Can we develop a computer program that can help us to predict where are the hotspots and so on? And this is precisely what I want to share with you now. So take example, this is a new development. It's a very hypothetical example. And we want to know where are the hotspots in this area and what can be the computer program predict the hotspots and so on. Right? Next. So what we do is we assume that at any point, right, within the 50-meter radius of that point, what are the factors that are likely to affect the temperature at that point? Okay, so we did a lot of research. Next, yeah, just click on it. Click on it. And we find that these are the key factors affecting the temperature at that point. For example, the building height serves a very important part. In fact, building height is a very important factor. You find that it does not mean that the higher the building, the worse it is. It's not necessarily so. In fact, you find that building that's high is good for the daytime because it can shade. It can provide good shade. But it's no good for the nighttime because it traps the heat. So we need to understand that. We also look at the wall surface area. You can see on the left there, there's a word called albedo. What is actually albedo? Albedo simply means the reflectivity of the surface. We find that the reflectivity of the surface plays a very, very important part. Because if your surface is not that reflective, it means what? It absorbs a lot of heat. And it can radiate a lot of heat also. The other very interesting factor is called sky view factor. Sky view factor basically means that when you stand in the center of the street, you look up, what is the openness of the sky? If you have a sky view factor of 1, it means that it is completely unobstructed. If it is 0.5, it means 50% of the sky is blocked by buildings and so on. Building footprint, greenery is playing a very, very important role as well. So this is how we carry out research to understand what are the different parameters. We call it the urban morphology factors that can affect the temperature. Next. Okay, so with that, we developed a software. Because of the time, I can't go into the details of how to develop the program or the software, but basically it takes into account all these factors, and then with that, we can predict the temperature. Alright, as you can see from here, our software can actually serve to predict 3 different types of temperature. One is called the maximum temperature, which occurs usually in the afternoon between 2 to 3 o'clock, and that is called the daytime urban heat island. And then we also have the minimum temperature, which usually occurs in the middle of the night, and that is called the nighttime urban heat island. And then we have one that look at the average temperature. Okay, so this is how we can now predict. And you can see, just comparing the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature, you can see that the hotspots are different. You observe that? Yeah? You can see that the hotspots for the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature can be different. So therefore, we need to be very careful on that. Next. Alright, so we try to, after we develop the software, we try to now apply that in a real development now. So let me show you one example, which is in One North now, which is a high-tech industrial area. Next. Okay, so very interesting, we have 2 cases here. The one on the left is the current master plan of that particular area, and then the one on the right-hand side here is the new master plan. So the developer is very interested to know, with the new master plan, will there be a change in the temperature for the whole area? And this is what we're interested in. Next. And we do the temperature mapping. And you can see, comparing the current and the new master plan, you can see there are some changes in the temperature now. Because the new master plan requires more buildings to be constructed, especially on the top. You can see right at the top there. Initially, it is dark blue in color. But now, with more building constructed, then it becomes yellowish in color now. Means the temperature is going up now because of buildings. Another very interesting thing that we are asked to look at is that for the new master plan, there is actually a green belt. You don't have a pointer. Do you have a pointer? It's okay. So at there is a green belt in the center there. Alright, so we are asked to experiment. If the green belt is just by having turfing, you know it's turfing, by just having a lawn or having a patch of glass, compared to if the green belt is with mature trees, what will be the impact on the temperature? So you compare NP model 1, NP model 2, you can see there is a good reduction in the temperature now. So by changing, just having turfing to mature trees, you can see that there is a good reduction in the temperature now, showing that planting of trees are very, very helpful for our urban environment. Okay, why? Because trees can serve very effective means. You can see this is yellowish in color, which is higher temperature. Then with more trees planted, you can see that the color turns to blue or dark blue now, showing lower temperature. We have done many research. We find that trees are actually very, very useful for cooling down the temperature. First, trees can serve to effectively providing shade. I don't need to explain much. If you park your tree under the hot day, under the shade of a tree or in an area without shade of tree, you'll feel a big difference after half an hour or so. So shading by trees are very, very useful. And secondly, trees has a very interesting behavior called evapotranspiration. What it means is that the moisture that is lost from the tree will convert sensible heat into latent heat, and that will produce a cooling effect. Next. All right, so we did more study by having more plantings of trees in the hotter area and so on. You can see slowly from this yellowish color to blue color and now completely blue in color. Right? So this tool or this software allows you to play with the urban and morphology factors, to play with greenery in order to see how you can maximize the cooling and therefore lower the temperature. Next. Okay, so this is just another example. By the way, all these projects we have to work with government agency. The project that I talk about, one of is with a government agency called Jurong Town Corporation. This is another project with another government agency called URA, Urban Renewal Authority, or Redevelopment Authority, URA. Okay, next. Okay, this is actually a very, very important development in Singapore. Just now we saw that in the virtual Singapore. It covers the Marina Bay Sand development. And this whole area is becoming our new financial center in Singapore. All right, our new financial center. And there will be many high-rise building, commercial building built in this area. So URA is very concerned. If we do not develop this area properly, it can block the wind that goes into our central business district. And that will make our central business district even hotter. So that's why we want to try out this software in this project as well. Next. Okay, so we did the same thing. We modeled the entire marina area, or marina financial area, and then you can straight away from here see where are the hotspots and what can we do about that. For those hotspots here, we discussed with the government agency what can be done about it. For example, having more greenery in this area. They are even prepared to move the location of the buildings if they find that the buildings block the wind. Right? And in some cases, if we cannot block or move the building, can we make the building more porous, like having a void in the building and so on, so that the wind can get through and so on. So this is the first iteration, and then the second iteration to reduce the temperature and so on. So this is how we make use of the software and work with the government agency to make the environment cooler. Next. Yeah, we also perform a wind simulation. Wind simulation is a very challenging simulation because we need to model the entire area, which is about 4 kilometers by 4 kilometers. So you can see this is a wind simulation that we model. Okay, again you can see some of the buildings you should be quite familiar. The Marina Bay Sand, the Garden by the Bay, and so on. So with this simulation of the wind, Some of you may know, this is done by using, we call it computational fluid dynamics, CFD software. It's getting very popular for study of wind, study of ventilation. So with that, we can see where are the places that there's very little wind. Is there a way we can do to improve the wind situation and so on? Right? Okay, next. Yeah, of course, the very important thing ultimately we want to do is to achieve good comfort. The purpose of reducing the temperature has two. One is to improve the comfort of the people, and secondly is to reduce the energy consumption, the cooling energy consumption, which is a very important aspect for Singapore. Alright, so for this one, in order to improve the comfort, we use thermal comfort index. We look at the temperature we map out the temperature in GIS, we map out the wind in GIS, and we combine these two together, we can come up with a thermal comfort map. Right? So with this thermal comfort map, we can then discuss where are the areas which are not comfortable and what can we do to improve the comfort and so on. Okay, next one. Yeah, so this is pretty much the same one. This is the original thermal comfort map. Again, we see where are the places which are not comfortable, and then we discuss to see whether we can improve the wind, we can have more greenery, we can shift some of the buildings and so on. So these are some of the things that we can do. Next one. Yes, so we come up with something like this as a recommendation to the government. For example, we find that the roads here, you can see that the roads here actually, they are very, very important because the roads here, the orientation of the roads should be done in such a way that it can allow the wind to channel through. All right? We call it a breezeway. So we should discuss with the transportation authority when they design the road to see whether the road can face the prevailing wind, so that the road can serve as a channel for the wind to get through. Okay, so this is something that we can do. Of course, we also recommend a lot of greenery to be introduced to different parts so that we can cool down the temperature. We even build connecting parts to connect the greenery together, so as to improve, also as to lower the temperature. Okay, so this is just an example of a project that we work with the government agency to see how we can optimize cooling in a particular area. Okay, next. Of course, people may ask, okay, you develop a software, you can use the software to predict the hotspots and so on. How do you know whether your prediction is correct? Right? How do you know your software is working properly? So we do a lot of measurement. You can see we set up all these sensors in different parts of Singapore, and then we compare that with the prediction results. Next. So this is another setup. We set up almost 30 over points in different parts of Singapore to measure the temperature and so on for a long period of time. Next. Yeah, you can see many points, and we compare. So the blue line here shows the one that is from the real measurement. The green line shows the one that is obtained from a prediction model. And you can see that that matches very well. Only with very minor deviation from the results. So it shows that we are very confident that the software, the computer model is working properly. Okay, next. Yeah, we also look at in situation whereby the prediction temperature and the actual measurement, there may be some deviation. Then we try to find out more. In fact, we find that the sky view factors play a very important role. For example, for this one here, when we do the actual model of the sky view factor, so when we model the sky view factor, we take it as 0.65. But the actual measurement of sky view factor is 0.059. And that shows, or that can impact the results and so on. So we try to understand more about the behavior of the software. Next. Okay, this is just again another application of the project. This is a very interesting project. This is a project, it's a residential project done by another government agency called Housing Development Board, focusing on the development of the housing for people, for residents and so on. Just to quickly highlight that one very interesting feature that we are asked to investigate is water bodies. Right? For this project, there's a very huge water body. That's why it's called Congo New Town, Congo Waterway. Now, people want to know, if we have water body, is it effective? Because the understanding is, if you have water body, there may be evaporation of water, right, from the water body, and that can produce cooling. So we also try to understand that. Interestingly, our results show that water body is not really that effective as compared to trees, as compared to greenery. Now you may ask why water body is not effective as compared to greenery. First, water body do not have shading. It doesn't provide any shading. It's purely based on evaporation of moisture, which greenery can do that. So it does not have a shading effect. The other thing about water body is that even though in the hot afternoon, the evaporation of the water can cause some cooling effect. But the problem is during the night time. The heat that is being absorbed by the water body starts to radiate. And then that causes the nighttime temperature to be higher, which is no good. Especially in the case of the residential area, we know that people nighttime will come back, come home, stay at home and so on. And that's the time where the water body starts to radiate a lot of heat, and it is no good. So therefore, water body as compared to greenery, we still find that greenery is a lot more effective as compared to water body. Next. Yeah, so we did the same thing. So I'll just go through this very quickly. We map out the temperature. Next. Yeah. We map out the wind also. Next. Yes, and then we come up with this recommendation as well. Where should be the major roads that allow the wind to get through? Where should be the area that we should have more greenery? And then how should we place the building and so on? So as to optimize the cooling for the entire area. Okay, next. Now, I want to quickly now talk about developing integrated analysis tool. Currently, those examples that I have shared with you, they are actually using geographical information system, GIS. Some of the researchers here, you may be familiar with that. Okay, but unfortunately, we find that architects, we find that urban planners, they are not familiar with GIS. When you ask them to say, why don't you use GIS for your design, they don't know how to do that. They are not familiar. So we have been thinking about this issue. How can we make this software more user-friendly? And this is what I want to share with you now. Next. Yes. So this is the one that I mentioned, using GIS, which people are not familiar. Then we move on to look at something now. Next. Yes. So what we do now is we actually make use of SketchUp. For those who are from architectural background, you will be very familiar with what is SketchUp. Maybe engineering, they are also using it. SketchUp has been a very, very popular tool used by architects, used by designers, because first of all, it is very easy to use, and secondly, it is free. It's developed by Google, so therefore you can just use it free of charge. So people love it. So what we do is we actually develop a plugin. We develop a plugin within the SketchUp so that you just use SketchUp in a normal way. Then after that, you can just pull up this plugin to map out the temperature. Alright, let me just quickly show you some examples. So this is a SketchUp. Yes. So with the plugin within the SketchUp, you can now understand the heat, the temperature distribution, the maximum temperature, the minimum temperature, the average. All this is done within the SketchUp environment. So therefore, training in using this becomes very easy, because if you are familiar with SketchUp, you will know how to use this tool. So this is what we've done. Next. Yeah, we also have average temperature during the daytime, average temperature during the nighttime, and then the sky view factor. Okay, next. We can cut again any section within SketchUp, and then you can get the temperature profile. Maximum temperature, minimum temperature, average temperature, and so on. Okay. Yeah, this is the part that is very interesting. What happened is you can use the database within this plugin to understand the cooling effect of greenery. We built up a database within this plugin so that, and this database is based on a massive collection of greenery data for Singapore, which I believe is the same in Indonesia as well. So therefore, you can use the database and start to play with planting of trees in different parts of your urban design. For example, this is trees, or it can be palm trees, mature trees, or you can play with the area of turfing, shrubs, and so on. Okay? And next. And with that, you can understand now. This is without greenery, this is with greenery introduced. What is the reduction in the temperature? So that allows you to give a very quick evaluation of how your planting of trees, how the introduction of greenery can help to reduce the temperature in this area. Next. Okay, this is another very interesting feature. Okay, that we introduced by introducing the greenery. Greenery has another added advantage is that it can capture the carbon dioxide. We call it carbon sequestration. So with the amount in greenery introduced, it can tell you these are the species of greenery you have introduced. This is the carbon storage, this is the carbon sequestration that can be achieved by the introduction of greenery. Okay, next. We can also look into the effect of wind. This is without wind, this is with wind. How the wind can help to reduce the temperature. Okay, next. Sorry, I need to go through that quickly because of time now. We also look at the cooling energy implication. For example, there are two different urban setup with the same, for example, site. With the same, okay, this is a site coverage, value, height, and so on. What is the implication? Next. So we can also look at the energy consumption for these two schemes, even though the site area even is the same. So it shows that even though you have the same site area, but because of the way you arrange your buildings and so on, the total energy consumption could be different. So we also have something that allows us to evaluate this using the software. Okay, so that is on the SketchUp version of the software. Now, any one of you here, if you are interested in the software, you can approach me. We can allow you to actually make use of it free of charge for 1 year. So just contact me if you are interested, if you think that that is useful for your research and so on. And it's very, very easy to use. Okay, just to, before I conclude the presentation, this is a very interesting project that's ongoing now. We want to link up the climate model with city model with building model. So that's why it is called an integrated multi-scale and multi-physics urban microclimate model. Now this is very important, right? Because, for example, we all know that climate change is getting very serious. So we want to know how climate change can impact our urban environment, can impact our building design. So that's why we now develop this model to link up the climate model, the city model, the estate model, and then the building model. Right? So it's an ongoing project. It's very challenging. It's not easy to use. For example, in the case of a climate model, we are modeling the entire climate system of the Earth, and how do we downscale it in such a way that it becomes useful for Singapore or for other cities. And this is the part that we are working on now. And the nice thing about this is that this model also allows us to look at the interaction, for example, between this and this. How your building can produce waste heat that can impact the temperature of your immediate surrounding, and how your immediate surrounding can impact the cooling energy of your building. So this model will allow us to do that. Okay, next. Just to quickly finish this part here. Now we are also doing more testing in NUS using develop again a 3D model for NUS as well. And then do more testing, do more setting up of the sensors and so on. Okay, very quickly, let me show you a very short video of this NUS testing. Next. Yeah. This is a 3D model of NUS. You can see how we have developed this model. A lot of work is being done to develop this 3D model of NUS. You can see very, very detailed model. The facade details, the roof details, everything is modern. And this is done by using drone and also using ground LiDAR system to build up this entire 3D model of NUS. Okay. This is our engineering faculty. Okay, we also model the terrain. We don't assume that everything is flat. The whole terrain, up and down terrain, will have to be modeled properly as well. Okay, next. And then we make use of this model to do all the simulation, like wind simulation. Next. Yeah, all these are the different wind simulation that we have done. Next. And then we also do solar analysis so that we can see where are the places with a lot of solar heat gain and what we can do about the facade. Next. Shadow analysis. Yeah, you can see where are the hot area and what we can do to the facade. Next. Okay, this is just a last slide. Currently, there's a very interesting project that's ongoing now in my school of Design Environment. We are developing a net zero energy building. Right? Net zero, you know, has a meaning. It means that on the entire year, the energy that's produced by renewable sources, which is basically solar energy, is more than enough to cover the energy that's used up for the building. Because of the time constraint, I won't go into the details of this. Actually, there's a YouTube. You can Google zero energy building in NUS. There is a video in YouTube that you can watch. Okay, with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Wong Nyuk Hien. You may sit.